We're back for episode 4 of the Rings of Power. We're back to following the elves, unfortunately. Last episode was a struggle, but at least it was free of Galadriel. Galadriel and Elrond are discussing how to get to Eregion and who to take with them. Galadriel starts talking about trust.
Prepare to fast forward!
Preparing to fast forward!
Fast forward!
Fast forwarding, sir!
Going line by line is just becoming infuriating with me, and I just can't. I'm trying, and it's becoming a struggle. Good God. I can't wait for the battle episodes where I just have to describe a couple things and there's no lines. It is bad. Ugh, enough of me ranting. Galadriel and Elrond's company is going by foot because this is Lord of the Rings and people walk around on foot at the start because that's what the Fellowship did. Not the same situation at all. To quote Gandalf,
I would have travelled lighter and brought no animal, least of all this one that Sam is fond of, if I had had my way. I feared all along that we should be obliged to take this road.
I'm just gonna let David handle this next section.
The country was far too treacherous and difficult for horses. The benefits provided by having horses would be counteracted by the necessity of finding paths in the rough foothills of the misty mountains that they could navigate, which is not at all what Elrond's company has to deal with. The practical solution would be for them to provide steeds, which I'm sure the elves could provide given that this company was put together by their reigning monarch.
Gilgadaddy.
Did I say that right, Riff?
You absolutely did, David. After a montage of them traveling by foot goes by, we arrive at a bridge leading to Eregion that has been struck by lightning, so Sauron can summon lightning. Elrond asks Camnir what other ways there are, and Camnir tells Elrond that they can head north, but it will add 2 weeks to their journey. Or they can go south through the hills of Tirn Gorthad. Nenya speaks to Galadriel while Camnir explains that going south will be the quicker route. Nenya gets new information from the writers to inject into Galadriel's head. Galadriel says there's an ancient evil in these hills, saying that Sauron wants them to go that way. Just like Sauron knew Galadriel wouldn't tell Celebrimbor who he truly is because it was all part of his plan. Elrond says the enemy is most likely watching both roads, which is the smart assumption, even though we're already stretching it with the Barrow-wights existing before the Witch King of Angmar. Galadriel says that they will not get there with speed if they walk into a trap, but that still hasn't countered Elrond's comment about both roads most likely containing enemies. With how this show works, either way you're walking into a trap. Elrond tells them south it is because it will be quicker. Galadriel decides to continue and be sassy because she keeps getting fed free information from the writers through her magical exposition ring, which for all you know could be information being sent to you by Sauron. Elrond isn't hearing it and starts heading south towards the totally not spooky hills. Not Gandalf is walking around in the desert, still 4 episodes in. I swear, if we're going to be waiting around for 4 more episodes for not Gandalf to get his stick, then congratulations for wasting so many pointless scenes in 2 seasons on this completely irrelevant story. Not Gandalf sees a goat and follows it coming across a farmer in the middle of the desert, okay, who must hear not Gandalf because he starts chucking weeds back at him. The farmer stands up and turns around and the camera just awkwardly sits on his face for a bit like it's supposed to be this grand reveal, but unless you know who Tom Bombadil is from the books, this shot means nothing. Tom is happy that not Gandalf found the goat, which is...
Well, there's what you're searching for, and there's what you find now, isn't there?
Holy God almighty, I want to fast forward. Gandalf brings up the stars, and Tom continues to be a smartass, and his likability is already at a 0 out of 10. Fantastic. The wind grabs the paper out of Gandalf's hand, and I think it's implied that Tom's singing is causing it, so he's continuing to be an asshole. Gandalf goes to grab the paper out of said tree, and tries to grab the branch it is on because I guess he thinks the wind is telling him that the branch is his stick. Trying to rip off the branch of the tree pisses it off, so it eats him. Well, goodbye now, Gandalf. I wish I could say that this means instead of using all those wasted minutes on not Gandalf and the Harfoots wandering through a desert, we could get, I don't know, scenes setting up political players in Lindon, Eregion, Pelargir, Khazad-dum, all of the other dwarven kingdoms, and Numenor. You know, setting up potential ring bearers for the rings being made that your whole entire show is based on. You're about to have 7 dwarf rings and only 2 dwarf lords, both named Durin. This show is a complete joke. I know up to this point I've said that the dwarves are the more tolerable part of the show, but do not mistake me saying that to mean that they are by any means good in their own right. The actors in Khazad-dum have been carrying that storyline on their backs. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. It would seem female Sam and Frodo survived the tornado. Damn, what a wasted opportunity to trim the fat on this show so we could flesh out the actual relevant storylines. They hear the trackers and they jump off a cliff and roll down a hill, and we are introduced to, as Random Film Talk calls him,
Simple Jack.
Who are you exactly?
I'm nobody.
Well, he can't be nobody.
Well, if everybody calls you nobody, doesn't anybody call you somebody?
My mum calls me Mary Mac.
Instead of getting scenes setting up Dwarven and Númenórean lords that would be getting the other rings of power, we are getting this utter garbage. Simple Jack accidentally tells them about his village because he's a drilling moron. He tells them about 4 rules for his village, but can't tell the 4th one just yet to set up another unfunny joke later on. Isn't this so great? We cut to them entering the desert Shire full of hobbit, stores. Female Static scolds Simple Jack for bringing female Frodo and Sam into their village. The tracker is explaining how he got his ass beat by Gandalf, so Mance Rayder says he'll deal with Gandalf. Tom comes back and pulls Gandalf out of the tree. Don't know how long he was in there, but the length of time doesn't excuse Tom letting him get eaten alive. Gandalf takes a bath, hearing Tom sing to his girlfriend in the other room. Tom acts like his girlfriend Goldberry is Fight Club, and we do not speak of her. Tom tells Gandalf about how he's the oldest being in Middle-earth. For being the actual oldest being in Middle-earth, you'd think he'd have a bit more humility, especially with how he treats nature. Tom is turned into Discount Yoda, which is an insult to a character that was created decades before Yoda. Tom goes into exposition mode, talking about how Mance Rayder came to him when he fell out of the sky too. I guess Tom being carefree and not getting involved in the bigger conflict is getting thrown out the window. We cut over to the Barrowdowns, which shouldn't exist yet. Daemor gets grabbed by chains and dragged into a grave and dies. Galadriel gets grabbed by a chain and doesn't die. Damn it. The elves, who have amazing hearing, can't hear the chains coming towards them for reasons. Galadriel knows what the Barrow-wights are, but doesn't know how to defeat them, and Elrond doesn't know what they are, but knows how to defeat them. Okay. Galadriel says Sauron awoke them, and I have so many questions for her, and if this is true, the show. Because wow, Sauron has been a busy boy if this is the case. We cut to Isildur and the rest of them searching for Theo. Don Lemonless is helping as well, and he spots a fire burning. It turns out to be a severed arm with a torch attached to it, okay. For some reason, the people of Pelargir think it's a wildmen that have ripped a guy's arm clean off. Estridge says to go north to find Theo, and they all agree. Then we get one of the funniest scenes of this whole season to me. Dawn stops to talk to Estridge, who's carrying a vase to fill with water, I assume. Somehow, Dawn noticed the scar on the back of her neck. She has so much hair, how the hell did Dawn see it? Then Estridge just tries to throw the vase at Dawn, and he does this insane high kick and breaks the vase in midair. I burst out laughing when I first saw this. These two are standing almost face to face.
Not a great plan.
Estridge was already irritating before, but holy cow, she's an absolute moron. And Dawn's pointless flashy kicks always get a good chuckle out of me. Dawn sees the brand Estridge was forced to get so she wouldn't get killed and comes to the only sensible conclusion that she is pure evil. They start heading north, I assume. They cut to this scene with no additional dialogue, which is a continuous pattern in this show. Isildur complains that she deceived him during their introduction, where she immediately stabbed him. Should have been a huge red flag right there. Dawn realizes what really took Theo by spotting petals or leaves on the ground. I guess they specifically grow on Ents. Theo wakes up in a tree prison with the Wildmen. Dawn and the others are following a giant trail of knocked over trees. Isildur gets stuck in a mud pit. Dawn tries to save him and gets dragged in as well. Estridge is baffled and starts running like any sane person would, but then she comes back with a stick to try to save them. It turns out it isn't a mud pit, but an unnamed giant slug worm snake monster. The monster takes its sweet time, which gives Dawn enough time to cut his way out of it. Dawn and Isildur should both be dead based off that thing's mouth, but okay. Dawn rips off Gandalf's line from the Fellowship.
There are nameless things in the deep places of this world.
There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
And starts laughing, even though he still doesn't know if Theo is alive or dead. Female Sadik tells female Sam and Frodo that they are going to be kicked out. Female Sam name drops Sadik Burrows, and female Sadik says we liked a guy named
Rory Mass Burrows.
Even though she doesn't believe that their former trail finder was named Sadik Burrows, she's willing to help them anyways. Female Sadik name drops the Shire, but in a different language because Amazon can't legally use the Shire, so they are setting up female Frodo and the racially diverse stores to be the founders of the Shire. Wonderful. And I died a little more on the inside. Female Frodo says that they don't have a home, when I thought the whole point was that your family was meant to be your true home. But hey, who remembers season 1, right? I barely do, and clearly the writers didn't either. The trackers come looking for the Harfoots. I don't know why Mance Rayder and the trackers let the stores live without tribute. Back at the Barrowdowns, the elves have made a grave for Daemor with his sword because the Barrow-wights must have turned his body into mince. Galadriel tries to convince Elrond that he should follow the ring since someone died because they all decided to stand around in the Barrowdowns listening to the Whites whisper instead of rushing through like they could have. Elrond repeats the line about his father saying one day Celebrimbor's life would be in his hands. Let's see if they keep up Elrond's sense of urgency to save Celebrimbor. Galadriel gets free information shoved into her head again by the writers. Galadriel tells Elrond to choose stopping Sauron over saving her life. We'll see how long that lasts too.
I ain't got a good brain.
I think you've got a fine brain, Jack.
You make me happy.
Camnir says they can hear the orc drums. We cut back to Dawn, Isildur, and Estridge camping. Dawn sits down her key and walks off as a test for Isildur, I guess. Neither of them could have actually seen Estridge attempting to help them. By the time Dawn cut them out of the monster, Estridge did not have the stick, so I don't buy them suddenly trusting her. Isildur unchains Estridge and she says she's sorry. Isildur says he's sorry too, and Estridge proves Dawn right by grabbing Isildur's sword. Dawn is already readying to fire at her, which Estridge should have seen. Just because you cut away from Dawn on screen doesn't mean Estridge can't see him. This awful standoff ends abruptly as Estridge gets absolutely yeeted into a giant rock by an Entwife named Winterbloom. So Estridge is dead, right? Dawn tells the Ent who he is, and she asks if he has ever touched an axe to wood. And instead of being smart and saying no when there's absolutely no way she could find out otherwise, Dawn decides to admit that he did. Please just kill every character off in this scene. I can't stand any of them. The Ent, voiced by Jim Broadbent, mistakes a sword for an axe. Fantastic. The Ents tell them about Adar's army coming through. Winterbloom continues to be a raging mad tree. Dawn gives her the puppy dog eyes and she calms down. The Ents calm down and release Theo and the others. Estridge is still alive when she shouldn't be. Estridge's body should have painted the side of that rock. Isildur goes to kiss her, but it turns out the head guy from the Wild Men at the campfire earlier is actually her fiance. Better luck next time, Isildur.
So if it's gonna happen, I might as well see it, supervise it, make sure everything's okay.
Wait, what? No, you.
Theo thanks Dawn, and I guess they're cool again. Wow, that was just. That was fast. Dawn decides to go searching for Adar's army, and Theo is apparently the Lord of Pelargir, which, because of Bronwyn. Okay. Elrond's company comes across Adar's army. Before the writers are forced to have Elrond make a choice, an arrow flies past all of them into a tree nearby. Turns out it was a stray arrow from orcs hunting nearby. How inconvenient. Luckily, none of them made one of the arrows hit Camnir. It's convenient that Camnir didn't make a noise after getting hit by that arrow. Galadriel then heals Camnir with her ring Ninja. How convenient. The rings don't heal wounds. They'll forget they were able to do this, I guarantee it. Galadriel hands Elrond the ring and decides to take on an army of orcs by herself because of course she can. Galadriel gets her hands on a horse and all the other elves pretend that Galadriel is in real danger. We get a shitty action scene where all the orcs stand around waiting for their cue to get killed by a chain. Galadriel rips off Gandalf's line, go back to the shadows before getting yeeted off her horse with a chain by Adar.
Oh no! Anyway,
this video is long overdue. I decided to begin my channel criticizing the Rings of Power, but the amount of hours going into editing these videos is much longer than I was anticipating. I'm trying out different editing styles with each video. Analyzing why this show is bad probably doesn't require much explanation. The product speaks for itself. My goal, once I have stuck out these last 4 episodes of this, is to begin my videos on House of the Dragon Seasons 1 and 2, because I want to talk about a current fantasy show that for the most part I really like. I will get into the problems I do have with that show when I do those videos, but for probably the next month or two I will be putting all my focus into finishing out season 2 of this abomination. If these videos keep getting shorter and brief, I apologize. I am burning myself out reviewing this.